Hi, welcome to 40 Craig, a podcast by two 30-something guys whose adult lives and responsibilities haven't eclipsed our zeal for stupid, nerdy shit, from Warhammer to video games to diners, drive-ins, and dives. If it's your fandom, we're your tandem. Little Guy Fieri callback there.
Little throwback there, yeah.
Dude, I was watching that before we started, and that is just fucking torture if you're hungry.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder how Guy Fieri's heart hasn't exploded in his chest from all the stuff he eats.
When is he going to do an episode nearby where I live?
Yeah, and then you can actually like go take advantage of the stuff. That's a good point. Have you ever met anyone who's been to a diner, drive-in, and dive location?
No.
Maybe they don't exist.
There was an episode of Kitchen Nightmare. The place was close to where I grew up.
Was it your house?
My kitchen.
Well.
But yeah, they went out of business.
That sounds like a nightmare. So Tom.
Yeah.
Here we are. It's Sunday. We're going to talk about Age of Sigmar this week because there's a lot of cool shit coming out for it, and I feel like we don't really talk about it very much.
That's because I don't know much about it.
I don't either, but you know what? People don't listen to this to hear us be knowledgeable or smart. They want to hear us being stupid.
Point taken.
At least I hope so. Otherwise, we're going to lose some viewers pretty soon here.
They don't know about Sigmar. I'll fuck these guys.
Yeah, whatever. Sigmar. So we're going to talk about it. The way I've kind of organized this, we're just going to talk about what are things that are cool and what are things that are really, really dumb in Age of Sigmar, from the lore, which we know next to nothing about, so mostly the models. All right, let's dive into this Sigmar stuff. So what do you know about the setting other than that it's like dwarves and elves and shit?
Fantasy setting. The Chaos Gods are there.
Yeah. Shit, something went wrong. I mean, I was fairly well versed in the Warhammer fantasy from like back in the day before, I guess, like the world ended or something, and like Nagash is back, and like I think Sigmar's there, and like maybe Slaanesh got captured, but the other gods, like, they destroyed the world. Something like that, right?
That's a good question.
So that's my understanding. Basically, the world as it was, the super fun setting that you can play in Total War Warhammer, is no more, and instead it's completely redone and, in my opinion, a lot less interesting.
End of days.
I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting that they moved the storyline along, because I think a lot of us in the 40K world have said, like, hey, it'd be cool if, you did that. Of course, then they brought back Robo Girly Man, which changed the dynamic a little bit, but I feel like they went pretty far with that in the fantasy setting.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day. How come Rodin Guillotine's the only loyalist Primarch that they have available?
I mean, one would hope at some point, like, what's his name? Vulcan is a
perpetual.
Perpetual. He's a perpetual. You got Joktai Khan and Leman Russ went into the warp. Rokal Dorn is probably alive, even though his hand turned up someplace. Corvus, I think there was some fluff that said he turned into some kind of demonic entity while he was in the warp, which sounds fucking awesome. So, yeah, I'm sure at some point...
The Lion's hanging out in the Rock.
Yeah, the Lion's hanging out with the Rock. They're going to make a buddy comedy movie where, believe it or not, the Rock is going to be Kevin Hart.
To scale, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I actually like that joke.
There's layers to that. That's a good one.
So yeah, I mean, they're probably going to advance it, but they did with fantasy. So let's just go over it, Tom. Like, if you were going to play Warhammer Age of Sigmar, is there like a faction that you kind of like or think is cool enough to invest the time and effort into?
We did consider getting into Warcry once upon a time.
Yeah.
And I did pick up some Daughters of Khaine models.
So Daughters of Khaine are kind of like Dark Elves from the world that was, but they're the good guys now?
Yeah, they're Order, which doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess in comparison, yeah, that's the best choice, but they're like super, like, dark.
Are they maybe like lawful evil?
That's a good way to describe it.
So maybe that's why, like, they cited, because like Order is like You got some dwarves who I want to talk about. You got the lizard men, Seraphon. You got the underwater elves who I want to talk about, because that's a weird one. And then there's the weird, like, everybody's wearing beige pants elves that we've talked about before, which doesn't make sense to me. And then there's the Sigmarines who, okay. So you got like the really prototypical good guys with a couple, like, lizard men are kind of like a good addition there. And then you got the people who bathe in human blood. So
Yeah,
okay.
they're basically followers of Korn, but they're the good guys.
Yeah, well, but you mean the band from the early aughts, right?
Yeah, Freak on a Leash.
Yeah. So yeah, they're followers of Cornwall Khaine, the bloody-handed, but the models are pretty sweet.
Yeah, and the potential to kit bash Emperor's Children was another drawing point.
So are you thinking like you would do Emperor's Children with Daughters of Khaine models? Oh, so you use the Medusa or Melusae or whatever it is, snake body with a marine top. That looks awesome.
And Kinari wings.
What's a Kinari? Is that a
these little ladies?
Oh, so they're Daughters of Khaine too.
Yeah. They have spears and other things. Yeah, so the souls that get freed from Slaanesh, when they're given form again, they have some kind of mutation. They're either snake bodies, like the Melusai, or they have wings, like the Kinari.
So that's the Daughters of Khaine are the souls that were rescued from Slaanesh?
Yeah, so Marathi, when she escaped from being eaten by Slaanesh, set out to free the rest of the elven souls that were consumed. Right. So the ones that she managed to free, they were twisted, or, snake-like.
That's actually pretty cool.
That's why Marathi has the snake body.
Yeah, and Marathi, so she's Malekith's mom. She's got to be old as fuck, but she's still looking pretty good, isn't she?
Yeah, because she had it. She would make sacrifices to Khaine in order to keep her eternal youth. But then he sort of died, and she has a shard. But she just turned to dark magic in order to stay young.
Yeah, so she's extremely old, extremely powerful, and yet doesn't have enough money to get a outfit which covers the important parts of her flesh.
Well, you know how fantasy female armor works.
Yeah, I do. But I think it's a cool model. Whatever. She's got a super cool dragon, snake body wing thing going on. So she's tight. And I think you said she'd be a good Fulgrim base too.
Lots of good Fulgrim conversions I've seen, especially now with Sigvald.
Yeah, combine Sigvald and Marathi, and you get a great one. All right, so Daughters of Khaine, that gets a big thumbs up from Tom. That's on our list of best of Age of Sigmar. I want to talk about something that's on my worst, and that is going to be the Caradron Overlords, or Caradron.
Caradron.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I actually like these guys. These are like the steampunk dwarves. These guys are pretty cool, actually. All right, Caradron Overlords. I apologize to you. So these are like steampunk dwarves with little balloon backpacks. So they have like hot air balloons. They float around and shoot guns.
Yeah.
Those are actually pretty sweet. Although the mechanics and physics of the balloons, given all the weight, I don't think would work. Who am I to judge?
There's probably magic in there too.
All right, here's my worst of Age of Sigmar, the Fire Slayers.
Fire Slayers.
Yeah. So here's why. What if I was building an army of these guys? So all of them are like the Slayers from yesteryear in appearance. They got the big mohawks. They're mostly naked. They got cool big axes and stuff. But when you have to paint an entire army of those guys, you're basically just painting skin tone and red hair. So that would get super boring with a couple armor pieces. And two, this is the least diverse army they've ever made.
How so?
Everyone's a dwarf ginger.
Gotcha.
They've all got the exact same hair color, the exact same facial hair, more or less. They're just all the same guy.
Dwarves do have big families.
But like, it's just they have big families. But like, dude, how do you tell them apart? I don't know, man. I'm just saying, I don't like the design of the army. It just feels a little bit too homogenous.
Too much sameness.
Too much sameness, man. I want a melting pot. How about some dwarves from across the world with some different hair colors?
You could probably paint them, different skin tones.
That's probably true. So you know what? That's what I want to see. I want to see somebody who took this army and made it a little more interesting. Because the one that's on the website is just like Caucasian redheaded dwarf after Caucasian redheaded dwarf. I'm bored. So that's my worst. Tom, do you have another good one or a bad one?
I like the aesthetic of the Night Haunt.
Yeah, the Night Haunt's cool.
The story didn't really grab me so much. They're cursed souls down to the mortal realms. They're ghosts, but they look fucking cool as shit.
They do the models. So the Night Haunt, like all the models are kind of spectral. So I think all of them, they have this really cool thing which Games Workshop designers seem to have mastered in the past couple years, where they can just make models look like really fluid and elegant, and like they're flying with like an attachment to the ground. Like, so for example, I'm looking at one model, Lady Olinder, Mortark of Grief, who's floating above the battlefield, and they hide kind of, instead of having an aerial base, like part of her cloak is attached to the ground, and that's actually the support for the entire model. And I think that's really cool how they did that.
Like with Mortarion and his like cloaky thing leading into the smoke.
Yeah, like disguising how the model is attached to the base, like really interesting.
But a lot of them are like, they seem so flimsy. Like I hated putting the Kunari together because that's what they're doing. Like the only thing that's keeping it on the base is her tail. Like this super thin tail, and I've snapped so many of them and had to reglue them. It's just a pain in the balls.
That sounds awful. And I mean, yeah, you're right. So like, again, very elegant, very amazing, probably a pain in the ass to try to travel with.
Mm-hmm. Especially because the models are so slight. Like as it is, like witch elves, like their arms are like paper clips.
Yeah, that's not very nice. I'm sure they're trying their best at the gym, But I think for me, Night Haunt, I do like the models. I think, again, they're a little too samey. So they have a couple like really big ones. Like there's a guy on a like flying horse or something that's super cool. I will say one thing. I'm clicking through the website as we're talking. Every time you click on this is the Games Workshop shop that you want to look at something different, it switches up the menu, which is a huge pain in the ass because you'll click something and it'll move right as you're trying to click it. Very poorly done. But anyway, no, I'm looking at like Reikenor the Grimhailer. He's super cool.
Like the Grimghast Reapers and the Chain Wraiths, they all kind of have the similar
aesthetic, yeah.
But I don't know, the ethereal blue, fading into the white, it's really eye catching. It's pretty cool. I like it.
I'll give it a thumbs up. The other one that's in Death. Death's got some cool shit. I'm really excited actually that they did the Soulblight Gravelords, which is just AKA vampire counts.
Right.
By the way, the reason they have all these giant names is because like Ossiarch Bone Reapers. That's too much, guys. I know you're trying to copyright shit, but it's like when you have to have an adjective and a noun, both of which that make no sense, it's too much.
Right.
How about Ossiarchs or the Bone Reapers? Like it's probably because they couldn't copyright it, so they combine them. But like when you combine them, it's too much.
Right.
What do you think of these guys?
They're cool. They remind me a lot of the Necromancer from Diablo 2.
Yeah.
With the, he had bone motif armor. That's what I think of when I see them.
I think that. I also think like Phyrexia from Magic the Gathering. I don't know if you ever saw those cards, but just kind of like biomechanical and freaky. I actually really like them. They just came out with a Warhammer Underworlds, or is it Dire Chasm? One of the little games band that looks super cool, and I might actually buy it because I love that Diablo Necromancer vibe.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't like all the models, but like a lot of them are pretty cool. I'll give GW credit for that. That was a pretty cool introduction of a brand new, like the Morghast Harbingers look super cool.
Do they have cool fluff?
I have no idea because I haven't been to investigate it. Oh, you mean the Ossiarchs in general?
Yeah.
I think they're one of like Nagash's. How do you say that? You see, it's Nagash in the video games. I always said Nagash when I was a kid.
Yeah, potato.
So one of his like legions, they're made out of reanimated bones, and they have this thing called the Bone Tithe, where they go from city to city and ask for like, we will let you live if you give us a bunch of bones to make new people. So that's the extent of the fluff I know.
Sounds like racketeering.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? But yeah, I like them. So I would actually consider playing them. But next one is this Soul Blight. I don't know, fucking Grave Lords or some shit. Soul Blight Grave Lords.
Yeah.
The vampire counts. Yeah, this is where it's at for me. Zombies, skeletons, vampires, necromancers. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, vampires are always a sure thing.
So I know, like in 40K, you're like an unabashed chaos guy. In fantasy, are you chaos or undead, or like what's your allegiance? Do you think?
I don't know. I guess I would need to dive into it a little more. I don't want to, go hedonites just because I feel like I have to. But I don't know. There's some cool things that would be worth checking out.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that they separated, like within the chaos like faction. There's each chaos god has its own like army thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like separate armies, which makes more sense, honestly.
Yeah. And they got demons and mortals. The blades of corn. All the dudes with the big two-handed axes.
Yeah, those guys look pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so death overall pretty good. We like the vampires. We like Night Haunt. We like Ossiarchs. Fleshy Courts, I don't really care. Whatever. It's a whole army of ghouls. I feel like ghouls were the like, okay, I have to take a group of these because skeletons alone aren't good enough. I would want to build an army around them.
What's funny is that they think they're noble. Like they don't know they're ghouls.
Yeah, that is fluff-wise. That's kind of cool.
Seems tragic.
All right, then let's go back to order for a minute. So we just talked about some good stuff. Let's talk about a bad one. Stormcast Eternals. That's like eating, for me, a vanilla ice cream cone with vanilla sauce and a plain waffle cone, except that in order to purchase and eat said ice cream cone, you have to spend about $1,000 and about 92 hours of painting.
Are they the Sigmar's version of Ultramarines?
Yes.
No offense.
I don't think I even know anybody who's played these guys. I mean, they must be doing good because they got so many models and they keep coming out. But like, I don't know anybody who is into these. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you just play 40K Space Marines?
They just got Garda Steel Soul.
Ugh. Like, some of the models are good. Like, Garda Steel Soul is not one of them, but I'm sorry, guys. He's a good conversion piece, but we had a whole episode where we're just like larfing at him the entire time. But like, some of them, they got good poses. Like, I like some of the monsters that they can ride and shit, but like, I just don't care. Like, you can't make me care.
The armor does make for a good conversion.
So do you think that's why so many, like, nobody's playing them, they're just using them for Space Marines?
Maybe.
Because you're right, you slap a backpack on and you've either got an Ultramarine or a Blood Angel, right?
Yeah.
I used one of them as my conversion for Pius Vorn in Kill Team. Or was it Godfrey? No, it was Godfrey de Montbard.
Godfrey. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Godfrey, I don't know, man.
Gilbert.
Gilbert de Murmur. Any thoughts here, Tom? Am I off base? Do you think I'm too hard on him?
I don't know much enough about them, aside from the stereotypical memes that they're Sigmarines.
I know that they follow Sigmar, and if they die, they get reborn or something.
That sounds like every faction.
Yeah, that's why I don't give a shit. Like, even the Flesh Eater courts, there was something memorable. Oh, they think they're handsome courtiers. These guys, it's just like, I mean, you got a choice between, do you want all of the same looking people in gold armor or all the same looking dwarves in red hair?
Fair enough.
The most interesting thing that happened while we were talking about them is that I choked on some spicy Bloody Mary and was briefly incapacitated. All right, I'm done. What do you think about Ideneth Deepkin Sea Elves?
So when Marathi tried to bring the elf souls back, the first go around didn't work out so well, and ended up creating the
So she made fish people by accident?
Yeah, she was like, this is not so great. Let's try again.
So she did what any like modern country does and just dumped her problems into the ocean.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, toxic waste. Throw it in the water.
Until you've got a 100-foot tall lizard trying to destroy your city.
I know everybody in the world is like freaking out because they have a crab in like their Underworlds team. It's a cute crab. I do like the crab.
Everything
Not,
will eventually become crab.
not enough to try to explain to my opponents why I have people riding sharks in the air who are elves. Who
Are
are
they supposed to be underwater? I don't know, the modeling made it seem like they were underwater, but then how would you fight someone above? Yeah, that's true.
How many whiskey sours do you think the person at Games Workshop who had before they came up with this idea?
Oh, let's make fish people.
Oi, we need more elves. Oh, I know what we should do. Let's make them ride turtles and such. God damn it, Henry, you're an idiot. That's
When
not
can I
very
have them
nice.
by?
Yeah, but you're an idiot. When could I have them by? This was riding a shark, ain't he? But how is a shark flying on the air? By the way, I'm sure these are offensive accents we're doing. I don't know what I was trying to channel there. Some kind of like Cockney meets stereotypical, London mafia. So apologies to the 3 listeners that we have in the UK. Put it in the comments. Tell us you hate us.
Both English listeners.
Yeah, both English listeners. All right. So that goes on my list of bad. I like the Seraphon. How do you feel about the lizard men?
They seem cool.
Yeah.
Lizard people.
Yeah, why not?
Don't know their fluff.
Well, the old ones are the Slan.
Slan.
So the Slan, you know the Slan, right?
Refresh my memory.
So they're the super duper powerful. Notice I put a duper in there.
Yeah.
Mages who are like giant frogs that float on these plinths. And they are the leaders of the lizard men, but it's like really rare to have one actually kind of fight. But they're like impossibly ancient, and they're the ones that actually created the world and led to the kind of chaos. They built the gates that chaos snuck through. So in 40K, you know how there's the old ones that were fighting with the Necrontyr?
Mm-hmm.
Those are Slan.
Huh.
So you can play as an old one in Age of Sigmar.
That's kind of cool.
All right, moving on.
Go
Good talk. All right, I want to do one last bad. We've talked about these guys before. The Lumineth Realmlords.
Yeah.
Some of the models are super cool. Some of them are super quirky. It looks like, though, we took kind of a pseudo-Asian aesthetic and mixed it with a 1990s kind of feeling that people would ride kangaroos, which I feel like there was a movie where that happened. And then also everyone then bought their uniforms at Land's End and got the same kind of blue khakis, dungarees.
Can't bust them.
Yeah.
I'm going to defer to you on them as well.
I'm just looking at the model. I don't know shit about them. It just looks like one of the guys should be wearing Birkenstocks.
So this is just going to be us commenting on what the models look like.
Well, but I think that's like kind of important, right? Because like think about Emperor's Children. Like you wouldn't be super into them if they didn't have a super cool noise marine, right?
They don't. They have the normal shitty, well, not shitty, but they have the normal Chaos Marine kit that all legions get.
But back when you liked them, wasn't there like a model that kind of like pulled you in? Like, oh, that's a model I would like to put together and paint.
I mean, I guess the sonic weapons they're still resin. You can get the upgrade kits.
But like, I think for me, look, like anytime you're gonna do an army, like you have to be willing to spend a lot of time with the models and like really get invested in them. And so for me, like I need to be able to look at something and feel like, yeah, that's cool. Like I wanna like represent that in my army.
Right.
So that's why for me, like I'm never gonna play an Idenith Deepkin or a Lumineth Realmlords because like there's no amount of money you could pay me to spend hours and hours painting beige blue pantaloons.
You have a point.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the Emperor's Children are, if not the most ostentatious legion in the whole 40K setting. So I have a blast, just painting them just wild, in your face, bright, obnoxious colors. They're not all blue and khaki.
Well, with that, we just do chaos real quick.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the Hedonites?
I like them. I like what they're doing. They're getting a whole thing, but I just don't understand why Slaanesh is getting so much love in Sigmar and not in 40K.
So it's cool, but it makes you resent it. Yeah,
the models are sweet. You've got your Mortal Realms, followers of Slaanesh. They do their thing. You get the lore there. But I don't understand why it's so one-sided.
Yeah. Like, they are pumping out a lot of Age of Sigmar miniatures.
Yeah. And I think we talked about that a little bit in an older episode, that, since Sigmar's so much newer, they can afford to take bigger risks and in a effort to build the game as much as they can. Whereas with 40K, it's already kind of established.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they've proven that the models sell. Just do it.
Just do it.
They came out with Death Guard. People loved it. They sold 1 million of those. Thousand Suns. Oh, awesome models. Keep going. You got 2 more Cult Legions. You did half of them. World Leaders would be cool too.
World Leaders. We need some new World Leaders. By the way, I'm just looking at the models. I think Disciples of Tzeentch, kind of fine. Blades of Khorne, super metal looking. I think they're fun. I would play those guys. Maggotkin of Nurgle. There's some interesting stuff there. I don't think I'd want to build it because I'd probably just get really sick about what I'm making all the time, but there's some cool stuff.
Yeah, I kind of had that feeling with Horde armies that you were talking about, painting the same thing over and over again, spending so much time. I tried to stay away from like cultist blobs because there's only the one box of cultists, so you have to have like 800 boxes just to have a whole formation. You get kind of tired of painting the same guy 8 times.
Yeah.
But I think the Maggot, right? You get a whole bunch of Poxwalkers, or whatever they're called.
They have names like Gutrot Spume and Orgot's Demon Spew. Morbidix Twiceborn.
What are the
Belobe Rotsponed.
What are the chaff? The wall of bodies.
Probably Plague Bearers. There's the Putrid Blight Kings. Those seem like some more tanky guys. Let's see what they got in that. Yeah, it looks like Plague Bearers. Nurglings.
Oh, the Nurglings. Forgot about them.
Pusgoyle Blight Lords. Guys, what language are you creating for this stuff? Like, the copywriting is... oh, man.
Sloppity Bilepiper.
Sloppity Bilepiper.
There's a humor with the Maggotkin, I think.
Yeah.
They're gross, but they're also silly.
A lot of crazy stuff. Well, I think we riffed enough on Age of Sigmar. Overall, though, I'll say, like, even if I'm critical of some of these, I really like the creativity and the obvious care, effort, and skill that go into some of these models. And even if I'm not a huge fan of all of them, I'm impressed. So thank you for giving us stuff to react to, and I hope the 40K product line is able to take advantage of some of the stuff that Age of Sigmar is doing to create some cool new stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. There's a lid for every pot, and just because it's not our thing doesn't mean it's not someone else's. Other people are going to get super excited about things we think aren't so great, and that's why it's great. Just keep churning out new stuff, and eventually everyone will be happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, I think we can say good fight, good night.
Suck it.
When in doubt, punch it out.
We're going to fabulous Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Kids, don't do drugs. All right, just as planned.
Just as planned.
Just as planned. And see. Birds and snakes and bugs and shit.